The short film Ellis by J.R. depicts the immigration of those staying in Ellis Island and the misery and subjugation they had to endure. The film is portrayed through the lens of existentialism on Ellis Island history, especially the medical history of the immigrants and the unique ancestral link to the island that people still hold. The intended audience are Americans whose descendants were processed through Ellis Island. During the time that this short film was made, it communicated the message of don't repeat history, especially when the topic of immigration was hypersensitive. In 2011, ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, announced a record number of 396,906 deportations. The legislators also wanted to pass the DREAM Act, which stands for Development, Relief, and Education for Alien Minors Act, is a bill that aims to provide a pathway for legal status and eventually U.S. citizenship for eligible undocumented immigrants who are brought to the United States as children, but even with multiple attempts of proposal, it was never approved. The controversial moment and year ignites a cause for many people to stand for freedom and through different means that would reach a vast amount of people.
Ellis Island, sometimes called the Gateway to the New World, originally opened back in January 1st, 1892. For about 60 years, it received over 12 million immigrants to the United States. Most of these immigrants came from Europe, escaping political unrest, drought, famine, and religious persecution. In the years leading up to 1890, most people came from northern and western Europe. However, in the end of the 19th century and beginning of the 20th century, the majority of the immigrants were Jews escaping Russia and European escaping poverty. We believe that J.R., the director of Ellis, wanted to direct his attention to immigrants coming to a new land and a new area of life.
Part of Ellis Island's history dates back to its medical records and the influences it has on the people. The immigrants had to first pass various tests to leave the island. If they didn't pass the test, they were virtually imprisoned until then. Doctors and medical assistants would look for any signs of infections and illness, attempting to not bring health problems to the new world that they were entering. If signs of infections or any disease were detected, then they would be marked by chalk and were sent for more in-depth examinations. Some of these specific tests include eye exams, mental, and physical exams. After all the examinations and tests were performed, those that were deemed unhealthy or diagnosed with illness were disqualified for entry and sent back home. Ellis Island holds a sentimental value even to Americans today, as around 40% of Americans can trace their ancestry to at least one person from the island. People can trace their ancestors through shipping companies that kept detailed information lists on passengers called the Manifest. Ellis Island holds a historical impact on immigrants and citizens today and allows millions of people to pursue freedom and the dream they've always wanted to live.
In the short film, the man is exposed to the novelty of New York, showcasing the worldview of existentialism by communicating the message of freedom to start a new life. At the beginning, the man appears to be trapped in an abandoned building until a light appears, revealing the Statue of Liberty, which symbolizes freedom and liberty. Based on page 134 of the course reading describing different worldviews, existentialism can be seen through the man's choice and desire to follow his own will, not being contained to a limited world. Through J.R.'s portrayal of the abandoned building, one can see this reflection of one's hope replaced with despair. This emotion of despair shown by the man as he walks through the abandoned building can be interpreted in Ephesians 4 verse 30 to 31. The Ephesians chapter 4 verse 30 to 31 tells us that we shouldn't be sad or angry or hopeless, as God will provide for us. He will keep us safe, and that we ultimately belong to Him no matter what earthly bound we might have now. This relates to the sin shown on Ellis because we can see that the man wants to be set free. He wants to go somewhere else with a new beginning and start a new life, but this ambiguous goal seems too far for him. He seems to lose all hope when he sees the gap between where he is now and where he wants to be. separated by a big river which he believes he cannot overcome.
But God tells us differently. We don't need to find hope in earthly matters. We don't need to dream about starting a new life elsewhere, because we can find peace and hope through Him alone. With this being said, we disagree with the worldview of existentialism because we are not the center of the universe, and we can't just decide our destiny and purpose for ourselves. We are born with a purpose, given a commission to seek and glorify Jesus' name. In 1 Corinthians 10:31, it states, "Whether ye eat or drink or whatsoever ye do all to the glory of God." This tells us that we are designed with a purpose, and that whatever we may do, or whatever situation we may find ourselves in, we should live for the will of God. But with the film wanting to portray a sense of hopelessness and loneliness that eventually comes with a piece of joy and freedom that can be grasped and achieved, it's using a frame of existentialism that displays one's determination of finding their hope and purpose through the history of Ellis Island history and its people's background, and their link to people even today.